Welcome to the Monster Slayer Bestiary, where we hypothesize how to fight pop culture's greatest monsters. I'm your host Red King, and today we're going to be talking about the long-snouted vampire of Brazilian myth, the Capelobo. Before I tell you what the Capelobo is, remember to like and subscribe for more content, and comment down below if you think I missed anything or got anything wrong, or want me to talk about a different creature, as I appreciate the discussion and suggestions. Your support would be greatly appreciated. Now, back to the Capelobo. The Capelobo is a creature described as being a hematophage, or bloodsucker, and brain eater, using its elongated snout to literally drink the contents of whatever hasn't been rotted by the internet. They are known to let out a loud and terrifying scream to announce their presence. The Capelobo has two different forms which we will be taking into account in this video. The first form is from the region of Pará, and is described as having two forms, an animal form and a humanoid form. In its animal form, it resembles a tapir, but taller, thinner, and has black fur with rounded paws. In its humanoid form, it's described as being similar to another Brazilian mythological creature called the Mapinguari, which I will definitely talk about in another video, but for the sake of this video, they are very similar to the form from the region of Maranhão, which is said to have the head of an anteater, shaggy mane-like body with feet so round they are hard to track, or sometimes a tapir-like body. We'll be going with the bipedal version from the Maranhão region, with the ability to switch into humanoid and animal form found in the Pará version. The reason for this is that they both aren't different enough to fully differentiate, and they both include stories about an animal version and humanoid version, and there's nothing in their myths that say they have different weaknesses, so this will simplify it a bit while keeping both versions in mind for the analysis. The Capelobo's main form of attack is to crush its prey with a deadly embrace and then suck the blood out of the carotid artery or suck out the brain from the victim's head using its long snout. While being a gruesome sight to even think about, this also tells us that they must have an incredible amount of strength to be able to restrain and crush a person with nothing but their arms. They also have the screeching, which, while I haven't found is anything other than a warning, could act as a distraction in the fight. The next factor for how to deal with the Capelobo will be the location. The Capelobo, being a representation of the fear of the Amazon rainforest, are only found in the jungles. This limits our gear a bit, as, being a rainforest, it gets pretty wet, so our gear has to work in the rain. We also need to worry about the rest of the nature that's in the Amazon. Now, what does that list include again? Yeah, we will definitely need a way to avoid those. And those are just the animals. I'm not even going to get into the plant life because you deserve to sleep a little bit. Just know, it's as bad as the animals. The final thing to discuss before going into gear and strategy is its one weakness, the navel. Yeah, little underwhelming that for all of this talk of it being a vampire, werewolf, anteater combo, is that its biggest weakness is to just stab it in the belly button. But hey, mythology's weird. Just ask Loki about Sleipnir. Yeah, let's quickly get back to the Capelobo before a horse girl gets jealous. Now that we have all the factors we need to take into consideration, now let's think of a plan. First, how the hell are we going to traverse the forest without getting killed by either the flora or the fauna? Well, thankfully, there's a solution to that in the form of two rivers. In both the Maranhão and Pará regions, where the Capelobo myth is spread, both myths have them living in the river basins of the Xingu and Pindar rivers. This means we have a way to avoid most of the wildlife while also traveling in a defendable boat with more equipment than we could otherwise carry through the jungle. There is a part we can't go to, which is in the northern section of the Xingu because it's just full of rapids that would tear the boat apart, but we should be fine as long as we don't go there. Now that we have a boat, we can carry more equipment than usual, which means we have more gear to fight the Capelobo with. First, I would have a small drone. Nothing fancy, just a small maneuverable thing with a camera similar to those racing drones. Next would be a harpoon. We would patrol the river in our boat and have the drone flying around in the deeper areas of the forest that we can't see from the boat. This allows us to look for the Capelobo without having to deal with the rest of the dangers the forest has to offer. We should also have a GPS tracker on the drone. That means if it is taken out, we can know where the last location of the drone is, and so we can track down whatever took it out. The best case scenario is we find the Capelobo with the drone before it can get destroyed, and so we annoy it with the drone, thus angering it. We can then fly higher than it, as it has no way to attack the drone from the ground. We can then draw it towards the water, close to where our boat is. When it gets into the water, we can then shoot the harpoon at it. It should be looking up to track the drone, so we should catch it by surprise. When we fire the harpoon, three things can happen. 1. We hit it in the belly button and kill it instantly. This is the best case scenario. 2. We hit it in any other area and it is now stuck, and we can use a bow or any other ranged weapon to kill it. This keeps us away from its dangerous claws and crushing hug, while also allowing us to attack it. A boat should be heavy enough for it to not be able to drag us in and kill us at close range. Finally, there's option 3, which is that we miss the harpoon entirely and now we have to think of a plan B because it won't fall for the annoying drone routine again. This is definitely the worst case scenario because it means we've lost the element of surprise. Now, if we were truly evil, heinous monsters, plan B would involve a bunch of flamethrowers and a forced fire to draw or smoke it out. Unfortunately, I do have morals and understanding that burning down the Amazon would be both a dick move and would harm the civilians that live in these regions, so I'm not gonna do that. Instead, we should hang around near the villages in these regions. See, the reason the Capelobo has its reputation as a man-eater is because it attacks these villages. If we can track it by following which villages it attacks, we could predict where we should go next and set a trap for it. Now, what's the plan for when it shows up? We shouldn't wear any plate metal, as the temperatures stay on average around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so that combined with the humidity would mean we would basically cook inside our armor. The other reason is, no matter what armor we wear, it isn't going to protect us from its crushing embrace. The weapons are where we should better spend our resources. Now, we need something to stab it in the navel, but the navel is covered in thick fur so it obscures it. This means we probably have to try and stab it a few times to get it right. This means we need a weapon that is predominantly stab focused and is also sharp, so if we miss a stab, we could try and cut back the fur. A rapier would probably be perfect for this. We should go for a longer rapier so we don't have to close the distance as much and possibly have our head turned into a watermelon weapon demo. We should also use a shield, as the rapier doesn't have any means of defense against the crushing strikes of the Capelobo. We should use our lighter kit to dodge and weave the Capelobo, avoiding it as much as possible while also attacking it when it is safe to do so. If we're doing this alone, it's stupid to take risks against the blood-sucking anteater, so we shouldn't overextend ourselves. However, if we're lucky enough to have multiple people fighting it, we should change our plan of attack, so instead we have some people with lassos try and restrain it, while others pelt it with arrows in the stomach. Plan B is much more dangerous than Plan A, but should still work. No matter what plan we use, we should be able to take down the Capelobo and keep our brain matter safe. Well, whatever's left of it. That should about wrap up this episode of Monster Slayer Bestiary. I hope I taught you something about a new mythology, as I had a bunch of fun learning about Brazilian myth for this video. I'll see you next time. This is Red King, signing off.